Let me ask you this before we wind down here. You know, one of the things that I think the U.S. struggled with in exhibition play, there's a thread that I retweeted if you want to hunt it down on my Twitter feed, but a thread of U.S. basketball players basically using tricks that they would use to get foul calls in the USA, in the NBA, excuse me, that just didn't fly in FIBA basketball with international rules being what they are. I think that's something that contributed to those upsets, is just this kind of gear shifting. And like you said, a lot of players being thrown off coming from the NBA finals or otherwise, or just even shifting to the feel of the new basketball and getting used to this game. But having said all that, what would you say when comparing like FIBA rules or just the look and feel of Olympic basketball compared to the current NBA? Is there stuff that the NBA should adopt so that Team USA is more prepared next time around?
I actually like the 5 fouls in the international rules. I think it adds a lot more in terms of, you know, foul trouble. So I think a lot of times that's used as like a crutch in the American game. Other than that, I think you're right, man. In terms of just the flopping and just like, and I know the NBA is going to be enforcing this in terms of kind of changing the rules in terms of players, and in particular when a player is taking a 3-point shot and the offensive player is creating the contact, and the defensive player gets called for the foul, which I never understood. It's like somebody running the stop sign and then the person that gets hit is their fault for getting hit by the car. That makes no sense. So it's just, I think in the international game, they don't really deal with that foolishness. So that's something that I hope that's alleviated.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see what the NBA looks like next year with these changes that they're adopting. I just think in general, we hear too many whistles in NBA games. Like there should be more neutral calls where a whistle isn't blown. Like they let the players keep playing through it. I mean, of course, every individual play is different, and you have to weigh that when you're officiating. It's part of what makes it so difficult. I think also just the pacing. Like they don't take a ton of time for free throw attempts in the international game, and they just keep it moving. They keep it constant. There's more of kind of like a soccer flavor to it. And also you're not getting nonsense of players. I'm sorry to rip on the NBA for this, but players complaining with the officials. Like the officials have much better control of the game, and it seems like they command more respect without blowing the whistle so much that the officials become the star of the game, because we don't want that either, of course. But it just seems like there's, as you said earlier, there's less nonsense in this international game. And if you look at that thread that I mentioned, or just highlights from the game against Nigeria, there are moments in there that are just laughable with what our players are trying to get away with and trying to draw the ref's attention to, that it just doesn't fly. I mean, they treated it like nonsense. And then what you saw happen, because we have the best talent in the world, our players adjusted, played more physical basketball, like you mentioned, moved the ball a little bit better as well, gelled a little bit better for sure, and then got it done that way. I think that is better optics in terms of, and a better product on the court when you're looking at it. So that's something I'd like to see. Any thoughts? You mentioned like fouls going down to 5 fouls a game, much like the college game. Would you want like 10-minute quarters to coincide with that?
I don't think so. There's not really anything else that I would change, to be honest. I like the NBA product. Yeah. I think compared to college, I think college is boring, to be honest. It's just not as exciting unless I'm watching the Lobos or some top NBA prospect. You know, playing for Duke or North Carolina or something. But I think other than that, I wouldn't really change anything. I think like I mentioned before, that those are the changes I would like to see. And I think, you know, what we're seeing here, I just wanted to point this out since we're kind of talking about it, the NBA rule changes. They're going to start calling fouls with these 4 criteria. The shooter launches or leans into a defender at an abnormal angle. The offensive player abruptly veers off his path, sideways or backwards, into a defender. The shooter kicks his leg up or at the side at an abnormal angle. The offensive players off-arm hooks the defender often in the process of attempting a shot in a non-basketball manner. So I think these players being used to being called fouls on this will actually help them in international competition because, like you said, you can't get away with this nonsense in the NBA. So I think they'll be used to it come international play. So I think it's actually a huge benefit.